with an increasing sense of disbelief, we had to report, or I had to report, that Labour, disgracefully in my view, was playing politics with the rape gang scandal, slipping in quietly just in 45 minutes before Parliament went into recess, just quietly. Slipping in, by the way, those local rape gang inquiries we promised you, we're axing them. We're not going to do it. This was, don't forget, this was after January when the entire nation was demanding a national public inquiry into the worst sex scandal this nation has ever seen. Now, we're talking about these rape gangs, predominantly Muslim men of Pakistani origin, raped, groomed, raped, drugged as many as 250,000 vulnerable young white girls. And let's not beat about the bush. There was a racial element to this. They enjoyed treating these white girls like animals. And you wouldn't want to read out the details, but treat them like animals. They most certainly did. It's the most horrific stuff I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a few things. But let's, before we talk about this, Katie Lamb, the Shadow Home Office Minister, stood up to object to what Labour had done. We need to listen to her speech because it's very powerful and lays out, I think, what the nation is feeling. But we also need to look at that tireless campaigner for women's safety and women's rights, Jess Phillips, the Labour MP, as Katie speaks. So let's watch this.
The girls we are talking about, Mr. Speaker, are predominantly white. The men who preyed on them were predominantly Muslim, generally either from Pakistan or of Pakistani heritage. One of the victims from Dewsbury was told by her rapist, I quote, "We're here to all the white girls and the government." Will the Minister accept that, in many cases, these crimes were racially and religiously aggravated? How, without a national inquiry, can we understand what part these factors played?
So during that very powerful speech, and summed it up very, very well, I think, summed up the horror of it very well. Here's to Katie Lamb. But during that speech, a sort of opposite number, Jess Phillips, who hitherto had quite a reputation for fighting for women's safety and for women's rights, was doing that thing that politicians do. That studious, bored, shuffling around, you know, the way they always do it. And people are furious with her. And I just think that here's a woman who's just ruined her reputation. She got into government and now she's playing governmental games. So shame on her and shame on Labour for calling off these inquiries. Bearing in mind, we have too many. Way too many public inquiries, but in this instance, the nation deserved it. Labour already called that off, but they did give us the SAP. We'll have £5 million worth of 5 local inquiries. Yesterday they called those off as well, and here's why they did it. Because they're terrified of offending the Muslim community, of upsetting the Islamic community, because they need the Muslim vote. This is just revolting, I think.
Absolutely revolting, and Jess Phillips's reputation as a great champion of victims of sexual violence, sexual abuse, domestic abuse has taken a massive, probably irreversible knock. I'm sure she didn't want to have to announce this. I'm sure behind the scenes she tried very hard to come up with something, but the bottom line is, having failed to do that, I think the only honourable thing she could have done and should have done, absolutely should have done, is on a point of principle resigned from her job. And I think that would have been a very, very powerful thing. The government would not have wanted it. And had she threatened it, then I think they would have had to come up with some solution, i.e. ideally honouring doing what they said they were going to do, which is have these inquiries in the first place. Many people were not happy about the idea of the smaller inquiries. I was open-minded about it. You know, all anyone wants is to get to the truth and ensure that it isn't still happening. Not just that it can't ever happen again, but that it isn't still happening, because I'm afraid there's quite a lot of evidence from those who know about this that this is ongoing. This isn't some very historic thing. There are still people committing these absolute appalling crimes against innocent young girls, and it's got to stop.
Absolutely. I mean, the consensus is it definitely is still going on, and the unsatisfactory nature of the 5 local inquiries, which, as I say, were offered to the nation as a sap, because Labour was terrified of a full public inquiry, because that would be an ongoing upsetting spectacle for the Muslim community. So they offered us this sap of the 5 locals. That was nowhere near enough, because 5 local inquiries, that's 5 local areas. This was going on all over the country, over the country. So it was nowhere near enough. But as you say, Isabel, at least it was something. And yesterday they called that off. Now this Labour's craven terror of upsetting the Islamic community, its craven lusting after the Muslim vote, is really turning into a problem. You know, the other day you should have seen Keir Starmer and the gang celebrating Eid at number 10 Downing Street. I mean, it was just a weird spectacle. They couldn't do enough. Oh, look at us, Eid, look, isn't it marvellous? I'll tell you what, I bet you they don't have a similar celebration for Easter. Am I right?
Oh, I'm sure you're right. And unfortunately, he forgot Mother's Day, which is quite important in our culture. It's not a big religious festival, obviously. It's not religious at all. But it was a really nice moment for people to come together and, you know, to celebrate the traditional family and the role of mothers. And he just didn't bother with that, did he? Of course, neither you nor I, Kev, have any problem with celebrations of Eid. I mean, I'm reporting here. I'm in the Middle East at the moment, and I tell you what, they're very good at marking Christmas. You know, the problem we've got in Britain is that we're not marking the traditional Christian things as well as we're marking things that are from different cultures. It's got out of all balance, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And so we're living in a country now where the Prime Minister turns number 10 Downing Street effectively into a mosque to celebrate Eid. We've got a primary school, a state school down in Hampshire, cancelling Easter so that they can have Refugee Week instead. No Easter bonnet parade, no Christian services in case they offend the local Muslim community, and so on and so forth. And a government that just bends over backwards all the time in terror that it might offend the Muslim community and therefore lose the Muslim vote that it so desperately will need at the next election. I still don't think it'll be enough for them, but that's what's going on here. You know, 2-tier doesn't even begin to describe it.
Yeah, plenty of tears from the rest of us. I would say that opposition parties have got to club together to make sure that those who are responsible for this, and that includes Jess Phillips, lose their seats at the first opportunity. And you know what, we could have a whole other discussion sometime about Refugee Week in schools. I tell you, if any of my kids were at a school where they held Refugee Week, I'd be withdrawing them from that school. That is a politicisation of children, and we all know it's a politicisation on the left, and it's completely and utterly wrong.
Yeah, you know that, just briefly on that school, it's called Norwood Primary School. It's in the very nice sort of rural town of Eastleigh, down near Southampton. Eastleigh has got 136,000 residents. Just 1,300 of them are Muslims. Good luck to them and everything. But because of those 1,300 Muslims, the teacher of a Christian state school, for that is our national religion. It's not a matter of debate, that's official. This is not a secular country. She took it upon herself to cancel Christianity in case she offended the 1,300 Muslims. Now, and by the way, I don't want to offend those Muslims either. I'm just saying that people like her, people like Keir Starmer, people who are bending over backwards going, oh my God, don't call me Islamophobic. They are twisting this country, they're perverting this country and turning it into a basket case. And that, you know, that is exactly what is going on with the Labour Party constantly. A terror of offending the Muslim community at the expense of the rest of us. And it's got to stop, as you quite rightly say.